Welcome to the Cryptosphere. This is Cryptogenic coming at you. Today is Wednesday, November 16th at 7:18 p.m. here in Northern California. In this video today, we're going to talk about Sam Bankman-Fried. We're going to talk about FTX, the whole debacle. What we're really going to drill down into is the deeper problem that this entire crisis exposes in the whole field of crypto. But before we talk about that, let's take a look at this clip from Forbes Digital Assets, their YouTube channel. This is from a year ago. Let's watch this.
I first started looking into crypto not because of anything to do with blockchain technology. It just seemed like a good trading opportunity. That was sort of what my background was. And there are lots of signs that it was a space that had a ton of demand and a ton of excitement and interest and volume, but not very much liquidity. And what that means is there's a pretty significant chance that customers are not getting great prices when they're trading. For that same reason, there's a potentially a lot of money to be made providing liquidity to those, being a market maker, doing arbitrage, and trying to sort of increase the efficiency and liquidity of crypto markets globally. That did turn out to be true. But it also quickly became clear that the space was in need of better infrastructure. When you think about the infrastructure in crypto, a lot of it is the exchanges. They combine a lot of different business models together, and it seemed like a really compelling opportunity to try to jump in and build something better.
Build something better. That was his goal. That was his stated goal, at least. He identifies that the greatest challenge in the field of cryptocurrency is infrastructure. He saw that there was a problem with the exchanges, and he states that he intended to jump in to build something better. I think what's more likely is he saw that there was a situation that he could exploit, that he could do a better job exploiting the industry if he had his own exchange. But that's neither here nor there. I don't know the man's heart. I'm not God. However, by their fruit you shall know them. I'm looking at his fruit, and it's not very good. So when we talk about cryptocurrency and we talk about how to assess, evaluate, analyze the value of any crypto asset, there's two primary schools of thought. The first, as you know, is fundamental analysis, where you look at the strength of the underlying asset. You read the white paper, you understand what this asset contributes to the world, to the field. And you look at the team that built it, the solidity of the team, the solidity of the tech. So that's, one direction you could go is fundamental analysis. The second, of course, is technical analysis, which is what I do. You look at the charts and you look at the history of the price movements. You look at momentum in terms of relative strength index, and the history juxtaposed against the history of other assets, in addition to juxtaposed against the entire market and so forth. Kind of gives you a sense of an outlook, of a way to analyze the value and to project the future of where the value is going. But there's at least one more field here of study that directly impacts, and in a sense, to a greater degree, directly impacts the perceived value of an asset at a given moment. And that is infrastructure. Sam Bankman-Fried, he put his finger on it. The problem with crypto is infrastructure. You can have solid fundamentals of the asset. You could have solid technicals of the asset. But if Coinbase goes down, if we start losing the exchanges where most of the people are holding their crypto, it crashes the underlying asset, not because anything changed with the value of the asset, but because the infrastructure that supports it is simply not adequate. And so infrastructure is what, and we're seeing this exposes this like very clearly, that no matter how solid your asset is, how solid the fundamentals are, how solid the team is, how solid the tech is, and no matter how solid the charts are and the technicals and the technicals and the fundamentals can come together to form a perfect picture of a particular asset, until the infrastructure is right, until the infrastructure is solid, there will always be massive volatility in this market. That's the problem. And not just infrastructure, but there's also, as we all know, geopolitical aspects. A pandemic breaks out. What does that do to the market? Unexpected war breaks out. What does that do to the market? What if we're actually right now being plunged into World War III? What does that do to the market? So this volatility that we're seeing, where what's happening actually defies the technicals, defies the fundamentals, makes no sense in terms of the technical strength of the assets, makes no sense in terms of the fundamental strength of the asset. But all of a sudden, there's these political or geopolitical. One great example is XRP. XRP was poised to explode. What was it, December of 2020? Poised to explode. And then here comes the SEC. And this has nothing to do with the fundamentals. It has nothing to do with the technicals. It even had nothing to do with the infrastructure, but it affected the infrastructure because all of these exchanges started to delist XRP, and it affected the fundamentals. It affected the technicals. It called into question the fundamentals. Is it a security? Is XRP a security, or is it an unregistered or unregulated security? But it didn't change the fundamentals. It didn't change the technicals either. But it tanked all, despite the fundamentals and despite the technicals. We saw XRP suddenly drop from like 80 something cents down, all the way down to like 14 cents. And so we're in the wild, wild west. We're in the wild, wild west until a solid infrastructure, as well as a solid political structure, which is regulations that come from the government, a way for the crypto space to interact legally, and that there would be clarification around that within the world, within governments and within legal entities. But here's the infrastructure problem is, in my opinion, the most profound, because the SEC sues XRP and it only tanks XRP. It doesn't tank the whole market. But FTX goes down and it tanks the whole market. Everybody. I mean, you don't see this anywhere, right? I mean, just look at the historic Ponzi schemes, right? You had what's the guy's name? The big Ponzi scheme guy, Bernie Madoff. Well, when his investment went belly up, the only people who lost their money were the individuals who invested in his investment. I mean, FTX goes down. We're not just talking about people who invested in FTX. I had a friend texted me and said, were you affected by the whole FTX thing? I was like, everybody was affected by it. The whole market was affected. I mean, you're talking about this exchange goes down and people who aren't even on that exchange are adversely affected, right? It's nuts. But now, what happens if Coinbase is insolvent? And a lot of people are saying, get out of Coinbase. Coinbase is insolvent. But then again, what happens when everybody gets out of Coinbase? Coinbase becomes insolvent. And a lot of people are saying, get out of KuCoin. KuCoin is going to be insolvent. But then what happens when everybody gets out of KuCoin? KuCoin becomes insolvent. And so we're forgive the phrase, but it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. So if you stay in Coinbase because you don't want to run for your life and then Coinbase becomes insolvent, well, you think, man, I should have got out of there, right? So this is a major concern. This is a major concern. The fact of the matter is, when we look, I could open up the crypto charts right now and show you that across the market, there's two things that I'm seeing. The first thing that I'm seeing is a huge bear pennant, like a bear flag being printed across the market. But the second thing I'm seeing on the Bitcoin chart, at least, is hidden bullish divergence. We see hidden bullish divergence on the weekly chart, higher low in the RSI, lower low in the price. Hidden bullish divergence, that's a reversal pattern, which indicates that the bearish trend is getting ready to reverse, and we're going to have a bullish trend that comes out of it. That's great. That's there. Okay. But if Coinbase goes down, I don't care how much bullish divergence you see on the chart. If Coinbase goes belly up and everybody in Coinbase loses their stuff, it's going to crash the market again. And if KuCoin goes belly up, it's going to crash the market again. In other words, here's the fundamental issue in terms of infrastructure with crypto. You got these decentralized assets in custody on centralized exchanges. And so what you've done is you've basically voided all of the benefits of decentralization by agreeing to the custody of a centralized entity like an exchange. And so, that being said, the future of crypto infrastructure must be just as decentralized as the underlying assets themselves. And it's only when we have created and built a sustainable and stable decentralized infrastructure, only then will crypto be safe from the Sam Bankman-Frieds. Only then. Now, the question is, what can we do about it? That's the question. Well, there's a number of things you can do about it. First of all, you can get off the exchanges. Now, that's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to abandon the exchanges. I'm not telling you to. But that's one thing you can do. You can move to a private wallet, cold storage. There are plenty of options other than exchanges. You can buy on the exchange, transfer to a wallet. There's a lot you can do. Second thing you can do is understand that this volatile time in which the perceived value of these underlying assets are being affected by infrastructure issues is an opportunity of a lifetime to DCA, dollar cost average. In other words, if the value of the underlying asset is intact and the fundamentals of that asset have not changed, then the temporary crashing of that asset in the long run is nothing more than a historic opportunity for keen buyers. And so the second thing that we can do is I can dollar cost average. Once again, not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy. I'm not telling you to dollar cost average and the reason why I'm not telling you, number one, I'm not a financial advisor, but then number two, this is in no man's land right now. This could crash. Now, by the way, looking at this structure is still intact. On the Bitcoin chart, we're still in this falling wedge, and the support was exactly where I drew it. So, and we got a higher low in the RSI. The technicals, it's still intact. It's not broken from a technical perspective. However, it's kind of like if crypto were a patient in a hospital, she'd be in the ICU right now. And if you talk to the doctor and you say, "How's she doing, doc?" the doc would say, "Her vitals are stable for now. Her vitals are stable for now." That's where we're at right now. Her vitals are stable for now. Doesn't mean that her vitals are not going to crash again. Look, let me show you one possibility that may scare the crap out of you, but we definitely need to be aware of. What if we do something like this? Am I saying we're going to do something like that? No, I'm not saying it. But that would take us all the way down to 13,400, which is basically where I've drawn my support, is down at 13,972. That's if the market is left alone, basically. The way I see it, if the market is left alone and we get no more Sam Bankman-Frieds and no more, geopolitical stuff, and World War III doesn't break out and Coinbase doesn't become insolvent, and another $990 million leverage position doesn't get liquidated, my best guess would be that the bottom is just under 14,000, basically. But the one thing I can say is that I believe in the value of the underlying assets. I believe in the value of the underlying assets. And if the value of the underlying asset has not changed, if the only thing that changed is that we discovered that Sam Bankman-Fried was running a scam, basically, that FTX was a house of cards, that changed. The fundamentals of the underlying assets didn't change. Well, that means that there's a fire sale. I mean, if we think about it in any other way, right? Like, I hate to use this analogy, but if the biggest Tesla dealership in the U.S. went belly up, and let's say that particular dealership was a franchise, was not run by Tesla itself, but somebody created a Tesla reselling dealership, and they were the biggest distributor of Teslas in the United States, and all of a sudden it went belly up, and suddenly the value of Teslas went down to $5,000. Everybody would go buy one. Why? Because the value of the car hasn't changed. It was this person who was doing crazy stuff to sell them. I mean, let's say he had 10,000 Teslas in his warehouse, and he was borrowing huge sums of money against those Teslas and then trying to arbitrage that money to buy Teslas at a higher price and then sell them at a lower price and sell them at a higher, whatever. And that turned out to be a house of cards, and that tanked the value of Tesla. You would go down to the dealership and buy 10 of them. Right? It's a no-brainer. The value of the car hasn't changed. This charlatan messed up the market, but we would all see it as a huge benefit. It's like, it would be a windfall of all windfalls. Like, all of a sudden, people who never could have afforded a Tesla can now afford a Tesla. In that sense, we owe SBF a great debt of gratitude. In the long run, we look back and say, man, that's what pushed it down to this line. I mean, and I don't mean that in a literal sense. Like, we don't owe him gratitude. I mean, the guy probably should be prosecuted. I'm going to do another video on his philosophy, because his philosophy is called effective altruism, and he learns it from a guy named Peter Singer. I'm going to do another video on that philosophy, because there's some interesting things. And the question that I want to talk about in that video was his philosophy flawed, or did he simply not actually subscribe to the philosophy that he claimed to subscribe to? And if so, what can we learn from that? What can we learn from that, the particular philosophy of effective altruism, and what does it have to do with crypto? I think that would be an interesting topic to discuss. So we're going to talk about that in a future video. But for now, yeah, all I had to say, really all I have to say in this video today, is that the volatility, this wild, wild west that we're still in, because of the lack of infrastructure, in the long run, provides us with a tremendous opportunity to begin to buy and hold assets that the future value of, in my opinion, far, far exceeds what we're seeing today. So this just made the opportunity of a lifetime even sweeter. That's my position. My perspective only. Thanks so much for watching. Do me a favor, if you like the content, hit the like button. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Visit my Patreon community. Lots of awesome stuff there. Would love to have you there. And above all else, make it your aim to sleep in peace every night, wake in joy every day, wake in joy every morning, and walk in love every day. This is Cryptogenic signing out.